Pnawn da, Cynhyrfod Sue Shotter ydw i. Good afternoon, my name is Councillor Sue Shotter and I'm the Chair of the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting, which is a multi-location meeting. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Translation facilities are available. Please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit in the chamber. For those attending remotely, click on the audio setting tabs and select English. For those in the chamber who wish to speak, indicate by raising your hands and turn on your microphone when you wish to speak. Remote attendees who wish to speak, please use the yellow hand function. When I call out your name to speak, press the button to speak button. If you have a point of order, just press the button to speak button. Committee members will have their say first, then non-committee members will be given the opportunity to speak. When asking a question, please leave your microphone on until you have received a full response. While I do not wish to stifle debate, please ask all your questions in one go and please focus on the subject matter to avoid repetition. Remote attendees, if you need to leave the meeting for a short period, please pop a message into the chat function. I expect everyone participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. Diolch. Moving on to the agenda, can I first welcome our new members, Councillor Alan Davis, Councillor David Carr and Councillor Mandy Hawkins. Pnawn da. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies, Rebecca?
Yeah, we've had 3 today, one from Councillor Keith Eales, one from Councillor Gail Jones and one from Councillor Liz Roberts.
Diolch. Agenda item 2, declaration of the interest, Code of Local Government Conduct. Members reminded that they must declare the existence and nature of the declared personal interest. Are there any declarations, members? No, doesn't look like there is. Agenda item 3, urgent matters. There are no urgent matters. Agenda item 4, minutes to approve and sign as correct record the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 6. I know all members have had the opportunity to read the minutes, so unless there is a comment, I will go to the vote by a show of hands. Do I have a proposer? Diolch. Councillor Angie and Councillor Simon second it. I presume Councillor Simon? Diolch. Members, if we can now please go to the vote by a show of hands in the chamber and online. Diolch. Any against? And any abstentions? That's being carried, members. Moving over to agenda item 5, questions to cabinet members. There are no questions. Agenda item 6, to review the forward work programme, Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme, pages 7 to 11, and the Committee Forward Work Programme, pages 12 to 37. Jane Jones, Scrutiny Head Officer, will be giving this review. Diolch, James.
Thank you, Councillor Sue. Good afternoon, members. Before you is the combined forward work programme to go together with the Social Care Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. There's only one update, and that's to let you all know we have a report coming in January regarding the future vision and purpose of Llys Elian. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch, Jane. Any comments? Okay, if we are now going to go to the vote by a show of hands, so I'll need a proposer. Councillor David and a seconder. Councillor Angie. Okay, members, if I can have a show of hands in the chamber and online, please. Thank you. Any against and any abstentions? Members, that's been carried. Moving over to agenda item 7, to consider a report by the Strategic Director of Social Care and Education on the following matter. Children and Communities Grant End of Year Highlight Report 2025 to 2026, pages 38 to 55. Recommendation can be found on page 39. The portfolio holders are Cabinet members Councillor Kay Redhead and Councillor Hannah Fleet. The lead officer is Mark Bowler. Councillor Hannah will be giving the introduction to this report. Diolch, Hannah.
Diolch. So the Children and Communities Grant is extremely welcome in supporting our most vulnerable children, young people and families. The grant allows us to work innovatively through a range of programmes with partners to mitigate for and remove disadvantage in a bespoke manner that uses our services effectively and meets our local needs. This grant gives us just over £6.8 million, and most of that is used in staffing. So £833,555 was ring-fenced by Welsh Government to support the expansion of the Flying Start childcare programme, and we've been successful in extending that to all areas of Conwy. An additional £600,000 will be directed towards our childcare offer, and we need to explore the best ways to deliver on that to fit the latest Welsh Government guidance and our own priorities in creating a sustainable offer. The remaining £6 million is used for an amazing array of projects. These tackle inequality of opportunity, they keep children healthy, stimulated and active. They keep young people safe in the challenging world, and they strengthen our families. I'll now hand over to our officers, Mark Bowler, Nat Minard and Hannah Fleck, who are going to tell you much more about how this is done and how our wonderful officers and staff and partners support our families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a good introduction there by Councillor Hannah, so I won't repeat all of that. I'm not going to go through the whole of the reports because you've got it there to read in front of you. But obviously, if there's any particular areas that members want to look at or want to talk about, then please raise those afterwards. I've got with me Nat from Fit Conway, who's going to talk about some of the things that they've been doing over there with the grant funding, and then Hannah Fleck is with me, who's going to talk a lot about childcare, I think, and some of the other things that they're doing over in her service. Just to briefly show you some of the outlines of the reports, in the first section, in sections 3, you can see some of the many different things that are going on with the Children and Communities Grant. As Councillor Hannah said, it's a very wide scope of projects to support children and families in Conway. We feel it's very comprehensive, and if you have any questions on that, please bring them later. In section, towards the end of section, it's paragraph 3.39, you can see there the full breakdown of where we've spent the money and which particular teams and services are involved. Again, if there's any questions on those, we'll be happy to try and answer them. We wanted to point out that we do work in partnership with a number of third sector organisations. You can see those in one of the tables, and there is just over £214,000 that in last year and in the next year that is going to the third sector organisations who we work with. I also want to point out that we work in collaboration with a number of different services across the council and in the local health board. Although social care do administer this grant, we work in partnership closely with our colleagues in leisure services, in education services, and in different aspects of social care as well. And you've got the numbers there. It's just under £500,000 went to other departments, and about 550,000 is intended to go to those teams in 26-27. I'll give you a bit more of an overview afterwards, but I wanted first to give Nat an opportunity from leisure to explain some of the things that they've been doing over there with the grant.
Thanks, Mark. So my name's Nat. I'm the Senior Play Officer for Conway. So I sit within leisure services, but predominantly responsible for place efficiency and kind of children's play and play development across Conway. So a kind of side branch of leisure, if you'd like. So first of all, whilst I got the opportunity, I'll always take the opportunity to talk about play if we're here. So why do we all play? So play is freely chosen, self-directed, and it promotes independence and decision-making. Children are free to play with who they want, how they want, and play how and stop playing whenever they want to. So when we're talking about play and the things that we deliver, it's where we're setting opportunities for children, facilitating that play rather than leading activities, which is where sometimes a sitting in leisure can be a little bit complicated because people assume that we get there and we set activities up. We'll facilitate that, which then supports the development of independence and growth across our communities. And this is all enshrined through the UNCRC, and we are huge advocates in our department for children's rights, not only Article 31, which is the right to play, but all other articles as well, in particular 15 and 12 around participation. So moving on to kind of how we've done this over the last few years. Obviously, I have the legal duty for Conway in terms of place efficiency. So we know through lots and various consultation, the programme we develop is built through what children tell us about their experiences. And when we're talking children from 0 to 18. So this doesn't stop when they go off to secondary school. They've still got this innate desire to grow, to develop through their own kind of actions and their social justice, if you like, in how they're empowered to access their communities and facilitate their own independence through their communities. So we've developed a playful pathway within our team, starting right the way from those early years with our Playful Parents programme, which are specifically child-led play sessions for children under the age of 5 during the day, where their parents, carers and other guardians can come with them. And the focus of those sessions is through advocacy, because we know it's really, really important that parents and adults understand the importance of play that leads in a child's life. They're focused on opportunities, doorstep opportunities, and supporting the family as well. So through that service, obviously we have connected to families. We were able to provide a multitude of support and also pass on parents and families to relevant other organisations, such as our partners in social care when needed. Secondly then, we have our playing out. So when they get a little bit older, we've got our playing out provision, which is very kindly funded during the holidays through Town and Community Council's funding. And then through the kind of funding we get through Mark for our after-school provision. And those sessions are predominantly looking, again, at child-led play sessions in the communities on their doorsteps, aimed at children aged 5 to 15. And they're focused on advocacy, empowerment, opportunities and child participation. So through those sessions, it might be that we're supporting them to access other rights that they kind of feel like they're missing, whether it's their opportunities to talk on the wellbeing assessment or whether it's their opportunities to talk about community developments. And we kind of feed that back in then through place efficiency as well. Then lastly, the last thing we kind of deliver out in communities is our Have a Go project. And this was directly born out of children telling us, we know that playing out's for us because it's 5 to 15, but in honesty, we feel a little bit left out. We feel as soon as we go to secondary school, people don't like us anymore. We feel excluded. We feel that people treat us differently. And we kind of really heard that and thought, well, we're part of this problem too. And we asked them, well, what can we do? And they said, we need a space away from younger children so we can behave how we want to, because our play is still play. It just looks different. It might not be what we imagine. It might be not chalking on the street. It might be something different. It might be louder. It might be boisterous. But it's still play. It's still doing all those things, those wonderful things we know it does in the early years for our older children. So we created Have a Go. And the idea was they didn't want the word play in there because it wasn't cool. But they wanted to just come and have a go at being agents of their own community, of themselves, of their independence. Have a go at different opportunities, be challenged, and have a place they felt safe to come and be collectively together. So again, they are children-led play sessions for children in years 6 and above. We're not very precious. If they're year 5 and they hang around with lots of older children, they can come too. But predominantly we try and protect that space for older children to come and express themselves. There's a huge focus on empowerment and advocacy in those sessions, and opportunities for play, fun, leisure and participation. So we've run that project now that was first done in a pilot scheme alongside our partners in Denbighshire, and we've been successful kind of drawing down funding for the last 2 years to keep that project going. And it's just evolved, as you can imagine. So now we kind of feel really lucky that we've been able to launch this year Play Champions, which again is something they've brought to the table. So when they hit 14, 15, even Have a Go is kind of maybe getting beyond them a little bit, but they still want to be involved, but we feel like we've got to give them permission to be involved then. So through Play Champions, we're able to engage older children in consultation about their communities, participation in the ways that they like to see communities run, what things they want delivered, and what part they want to take in that. And so providing training and opportunities for kind of reflection and growth on their part, through, we've, like I said, it's quite a new project. So we've had 22 young people come through level 2 play training. Some of them then applied for summer jobs with us, which is amazing because they're giving back into the project. Some of them were just happy to, that's what they wanted to do. They come along and put a high-vis jacket on now and still play football with their friends. But being able to have that option to extend their play. And then for other children who, young people who completed the training, they're now working over the summer in these sports camps, in your childcare settings. So that sense of empowerment and kind of belonging through the project has been incredible to see. And we're just in that pilot phase. So we're looking forward to kind of progressing through the year and seeing how that goes. And then lastly, again, coming through the children, an example of the development work we do is we're out working with community settings such as schools, libraries, anywhere that'll have us really. We go and try and talk about play through the Active Playtime Challenge, and that's to support professionals, communities, settings, parents, children, and anyone who will listen to me talk about how important it is to activate children's right to play, developing play opportunities and support development, wellbeing and community engagement. And just whilst I've got the opportunity, I've thrown out a link there to our training programme because everybody in here is welcome to come and get involved in that as well and hear about the work that the children are doing in their own communities. So a little kind of, we've spoke through the purpose of Have a Go. It's predominantly to kind of support those young people's emotional needs, well-being, resilience, and whatever they bring to the table. Whether it's the lacking confidence to go driving and we just talk about that and they go off and do driving lessons, whatever. Strengthening social community connections, providing that early help and prevention through inclusive community-based provision, and hopefully through de-escalation techniques through that early intervention, supporting statutory services further down the line as well. So a quick overview over the last 12 months of Have a Go. We've had 498 individual young people come and access the sessions. The team have delivered 115 sessions throughout from kind of April to March last year. And we've had 25 older children engage in the new Play Champions, which I think was incredible over a couple of months. So kudos to the staff that are out there and engaging those children. I've got the easy job. They turn up and I do the training with them, but the staff are out there getting them involved, which is fantastic. And then the other part of our kind of project we wanted to touch on today, Mark's asked me to highlight, was something we tried for the first time last year with a little bit of additional funding through our holiday provision, through Playing Out, which again, I'm really grateful to all the Timekeeping councils that fund that provision in the holidays. We've been able to provide food and packed lunches during those sessions. So we had the typical feedback coming in off parents. 95% of parents told us that the provision through the holidays in particular impacted their children's emotional health and mental well-being in a positive way. They spoke about how the children enjoyed the sessions and trying new things. But it was really, really clear through the feedback that last summer the food provision was what stuck out for parents and children too. It came across really strongly in the consultation, the feedback after the holidays, that provision made a real difference. So we were really kind of proud that last year, through just the holidays, we were able to deliver just short of 3,000 lunches across communities in Conway, in a really kind of, in a really open way. So it was there, and if you needed it, you took it. It was a really inclusive way it was done. And we've been really proud of that. We're really excited that we've been able to extend that offer throughout the holidays this year too. So there's just a little few highlights of what's going on in play development, and we're really kind of privileged to be able to receive that funding from our colleagues to be able to deliver on that provision and keep expanding those opportunities for children and kind of give children that voice in our delivery as well. So that's it for me. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to bat about.
Thank you so much now. And extremely exciting. I think what we'll do is we'll do the whole presentation, and I know who's going to come next.
Just one before Hannah comes in, just to say thank you to Nat for that. The stat she didn't share is it's 4,731 children and parents, isn't it?
Across the whole project.
Across the whole project, which is enormous for the county and the reach of this project. And it's really successful. The feedback is excellent, and 25 moving on to that what is it called?
That's level 2 accredited training.
Level 2 accredited training that they can take with them for the rest of their lives is fantastic. But yeah, we're going to hand over to Hannah next.
Okay. Good afternoon. I was due to be here last summer and unfortunately was ill with glandular fever for this summer. So using the setup is quite new to me. bear with me. I know I've got to put my thumb up to say that I want my presentation to appear, and we're hopefully going to manage this to be... this is going to be a test of my skills at this point as to how I can do it on here. I can't remember how to press start.
You need to go to there for full screen.
Thank you. Sorted. Right. What I am not going to focus on so much today is the way that our family centres work. I've come here previously, we've talked through the family centres. You are very aware of the family centres as a model. I want you to understand that that is part of this as a baseline, but the focus today is around the childcare offer and the requirements that we've had from our colleagues in Welsh Government to move that forward. So more than anything, it's an information session. I need to hold my hands up and say that I was so late getting my presentation completed. It has not been through our colleagues in translation. So I'm through Gunny, and the Cymraeg errors are mine. They are not the errors of translation colleagues, so please hold me personally accountable. Before we go anywhere else, I want to take you through what the current Welsh Government's focus is around childcare. It's quite different from previous government focuses for childcare and for Flying Start childcare. You will not be able to read all of this, but I know that you've already memorised it. There were 4 key pledges that were made by Plaid Cymru that they've taken forward into their Welsh Government status. We're not able to discuss and debate those. This is what we've been required to look at. What I want to make sure is that you're clear about the requests that are being made of us from the government. So, the first of these is that they wanted an expert steering group and childcare workforce in the Welsh Civil Service. And behind that is a network of conversations. So the childcare task force is about the civil service. The expert steering group, we are very fortunate in Conwy that Dr. Laurie Brown, who is our Director for Education, has got the responsibility for representing the Associate Directors for Education in Wales. Myself and Helen Lawson, who is the Flying Start lead for childcare, are attending a separate meeting which is around the childcare in relation to Flying Start. Alwyn Williams, who leads in terms of early years and childcare for education, attends a network of All Wales colleagues around how that's going to implement for the 30 hours childcare programme, which you may already be aware of. And internally to Welsh Government, they've established their civil service task force. The second pledge that was made was a rollout of the 12.5-hour funded childcare for all 2-year-olds. So 12.5-hour funded childcare is currently only available in Wales through the Flying Start programme. It's one of those difficult areas of work that is one of the 4 pillars of how Flying Start is delivered. It's a very focused offer. It has historically been very focused on specific postcodes. That has shifted dramatically in the way that the Welsh Government have been moving over the previous 2 years or so, and I'll come to that later. Things that you need to be aware of is it's for the term after your child turns 2. Now, I don't want to teach you to suck eggs, but you'll agree that the majority of parents who are looking after a 2-year-old who don't have other children in school don't think about term times. It doesn't mean anything to them. Terms are something that magically appear when your child enters school. Before that point, you just have a child who you want to love and look after and keep safe. So for an awful lot of parents, it's been very confusing. When is this term after they turn 2? They're casting their own minds back to when they went to school. What were the term systems like? When's that going to be? We have a requirement that the Flying Start standard is that the lead person is level 5 qualified, which is higher than the Care Inspectorate Wales requirements for childcare, and that makes it more complicated. And in Conwy, we are really impressively able to confirm that we've had 61 of our 93 childcare providers in the county already deliver Flying Start childcare. We've had it as a universal offer within Conwy. I appreciate we are not on the Welsh Government's announcement lists, but we've had it as a universal offer since we took it to scrutiny last year, and effectively therefore since April last year it's been available to all children. I say it's the children that makes the decision as to whether or not they're going to childcare. It's been available for the parents to be able to put the option for their child at the age of 2 to go into childcare for 12.5 hours a week in term time for the term after their child turns 2. So you can see there's quite a lot of hoops there already. The pledge, therefore, is around expanding that childcare so that it's 20 hours a week for all 2-year-olds. And they want to extend that 20 hours of care to 3 and 4-year-olds who are not currently eligible for the existing childcare offer for Wales. So the childcare offer for Wales has some quite specific ties to it around parental responsibilities to work, or to work for a set number of hours minimum. They have to be doing at least 16 hours per week in employment or education training. You cannot have a parent who, if you're in a 2-parent household, you cannot have one parent who is not in education, work or employment or training, because that would mean that they weren't eligible then to access the 20 hours, 30 hours of childcare. Sorry, 20 hours of childcare. Please bear in mind that 30 hours of childcare is a little confusing for the childcare offer. 10 of those hours are education hours through early years education. 20 of them are childcare, which is a different focus. So it's not about the education skill, it's about the play, it's the interaction, it's participating with other children. So the proposal is that, or the intention is for it to be available 48 weeks of a 52-week year. That at the moment we have around about 900 3 to 4-year-olds who are taking up this offer in the current summer term. That is around about 18 months worth of children in that cohort, because it's a 2-year span from age 3 to 4 when they then go into primary school into reception in the September. And at the moment, we don't know how many parents are not able to access the childcare offer element of 20 hours a week, because that isn't something we currently have that detail for. Okay, I appreciate this is a little complicated, and I also don't want to make you think that I'm just running around in circles, but it's not a cut and dry picture for us. The intention then is to expand the funded care hours afterwards for children aged 9 months through to 2 years. And we haven't got a clear timeline for this, aside from the fact that the intention for government is for this all to be completed within this current Senedd term. So when within that Senedd term we're going to be able to guarantee that we've got places for 9-month-olds, we don't know. There's something really important as well here about the messaging. This is not to say that all 9-month-old babies have to be put into childcare. It's about making sure that parents who have that choice to make, or who have a reason to seek that, are able to access that funded childcare. And that was a point that we raised recently when the First Minister visited the Family Centre in Llanrwst, to really highlight that we've got to be careful about the messaging around the value of family and the value of that wider family network. We know, and you will know, that a lot of your local people are also providing, as grandparents, aunts, uncles, childcare responsibilities to their grandchildren and wider family members. So it's really important that we understand that that's not being negated, because that's really valuable and really powerful. But if that's not an option, making sure that people can also know where the routes are. In terms of the capacity in the current in the sector, beyond what it's currently providing, it's not clear. The likelihood that we'd be able to suddenly magic up spaces for, if there was an additional 10% of parents wanting their 9-month-old to go into childcare, that's a really difficult conversation to have. We need to make sure that everything is done legitimate legally, and that there's security within those businesses for how we take it forward. So, currently we have around 627 children attending Flying Start, which is the 12.5 hours a week for the term after they turn 2 up until they turn 3, or the term after that. And then they become eligible for the childcare offer. We have 61 providers, which breaks into 14 childminders, 18 day nurseries, 20 playgroups and 9 cylchoedd. We then have 619 of our families have been able to get their first choice setting. The 8 families who didn't get their first choice setting had a second choice setting, and those families have chosen not to take the second choice setting. It was available to them, they've made that choice not to. So we're quite positive that we're currently able to meet the current request and demand. But as this is rolled out, as people become more confident about what they want, we can see that that's going to then impact on whether or not that is going to be sufficient. We undertake quality assessments that are above and beyond the CIW national minimum standards for childcare settings. And we're moving to one called ECPLC, and my apologies because I can't see my notes, and that told me exactly what that stood for. But it's an assessment not only of the setting in terms of the approach to the staff, but actually the physical nature of that setting and how it works. So we have done previous expansions of Flying Start. It didn't just appear in 2007 and then appear last year that we're able to offer it to everyone. It's been quite an incremental increase throughout, running through from very, very tight core areas in 2007 through to quite complicated maths in the last couple of years. And the reason that we were able in 2025 to say everybody in Conwy with a child of this age would be able to access this is because we had effectively covered the county in our main conurbations, and we then needed to look further to try and find children in the nicest possible way where their families would like them to be able to access their local community provision. I have some case studies for you, but they're written down and I'll come back to them in a minute. We are really clear that this is about funded, not free childcare. And I want to be really clear with you about that as well. When we've often historically talked about Flying Start childcare, all of us have naturally gone to the them kind of feel to it, that it's completely free. It isn't. It's funded by the CCG and it's funded through other routes to ensure that we're able to access it effectively. The universal offer is already there for 2-year-olds in our county. But as with any universal offer, it's only ever going to be clear as to whether or not we've got sufficient if everybody takes it up or not. So at this moment in time, we feel confident we're able to do it. We are seeing dwindling birth rates quite, it goes down quite significantly, which means that we're in a positive route at this moment in time because we have got sufficient spaces going forward. As you'll anticipate, any 2-year-old, any parent of a 2-year-old who puts their child into their local setting wants them to stay there. And the messaging that we've been really clear about is that we talk about wraparound care around schools. We talk about you being on your school sites. We want you to be able to have that confidence as a little person going into school that you know the area that you're going to be going to school in. So we try and encourage families to make use of the Cilch that are in the schools and so forth. And as a large group of children come through one year, it means that the next year they may have fewer places available. We've been working really closely with them to make sure that they've got sufficient places to enable flow through. But we do have really limited capacity in our county, and we've got to make that decision in the right way around whether we're going for the 48 hours a year, 48 weeks of a year, or if we're going for 20 hours a week as our priority. And that's the work that we're doing currently. And to help us do that, we're undertaking an open accounting approach with settings to ensure that the fee that we're paying meets the costs of those settings, because we could be paying you too little to deliver, bearing in mind that the requirements of the Flying Start standard for 12.5 hours have not reduced. So it's still higher, which means that you need, because we're talking about little children, we're having to make sure that everything's going up. So that's it. I think that's actually all of my presentation. So if I can stop sharing now, please, that'd be really appreciated. Thank you. What I would like to do, though, is to take you through a couple of our sort of ideas about the sort of work that we're doing and how it works. In terms of Flying Start expansion, we had one setting where it was a really clear gap in that local community. We didn't have a setting that was providing Flying Start childcare spaces. And we had gone back, we'd spoken with them several years ago. They did not want to be involved in Flying Start. However, parents were voting with their feet. They were making it really clear that they did not want to go to that setting if they weren't able to access those 12.5 hours of funded childcare, because at the moment in particular, but that's a real evidence base for families to see the benefit of that on their childcare bill. We did identify ways that setting we're able to improve, and we then worked with them to put those improvements in place to support them to be able to do it, and therefore to return to being able to accept families, because families wanted to use that setting, but they couldn't use that setting if they weren't willing to do Flying Start childcare offer, and they couldn't get the Flying Start childcare offer agreed for them if they weren't willing to put in place some of the changes. And we know it's a really difficult conversation to have with businesses. We don't simply say, here is the standard you need to meet, good luck. We say, here's how you can meet the standard. This is the support we can offer. This is how we can support with some of your resources to make sure that the offer is better for you. And we could really see the improvement as a result of that. So we provided £3,000 to enhance the quality of the learning environment in terms of their furniture, in terms of the resources that they needed. And we've worked with them to really see as a result a real confidence in the improved offer, and actually more families being confident to use that now because they can use it. But our Flying Start childcare team doesn't just do the physical conversations with the buildings and the settings. They also have conversations with families about actually how do we support families where there's real significance. What if you have a parent who has themselves got significant additional needs? How do we support that child and their grandparents to ensure that they are given the best access to support available to them? So, you know, for example, where families have been really desperately trying to help parents to access parenting support because that parent would benefit from it, this can be a really useful way to be able to do it. We're able to do that work alongside that family whilst that child is safely in a Flying Start childcare setting, so that the parent is reassured. They're then given the skills to be able to better manage that growing child's needs and developments as they go through. And it's about then how we work really closely with our nursery settings so that they understand the more complex nature of different family lives and different circumstances. And as a result, so that those nurseries can recognise the strategies that we're supporting parents to put in place, and at the same time the parents understand the strategies that we're putting in place with the children. We also work with situations where, for example, a child may be in a foster placement here from a different county, and work with them to ensure that they as the family that is fostering are supported, and we have that then as an arrangement with our colleagues in Denbighshire that they will fund us for those places. We have it that we can fund children to attend in Denbighshire as well if we need to. So we've got a lot of cross-border working to try and make sure we've got the best offer going. And I'm really conscious that that's an awful lot of information that I've thrown at you incredibly fast. I'm more than happy to take any questions you may have, and also to be honest if I don't know the answer, because I will go back to you as well if I don't have the answer.
Great, thank you very much. Great. So we'll move on from childcare. I'll just cover the last few paragraphs in the report, then hand back for questions. Wanted to raise your attention to paragraph 3.41. Just to say that we're very pleased that in 25-26 we spent all of the grant money, so all of the £6.8 million has been spent in the communities in Conway. In 26-27, while it does look like the money has increased, which it has from 6.8 million to just under 6.95 million. In real terms, it isn't actually an increase because there's been additional things that have been brought into the grant, additional requirements and that sort of thing. So it actually does end up being a reduction, unfortunately, in some of the things that we can fund in the grant. A lot of the additional money is also ring fenced, and there has been a hint from Welsh Government recently that there will be more money coming into the grant specifically for the childcare expansion further, but again that money will be ring fenced, and we're still awaiting further details on that, if you're aware of the discussions that have been going on within the Senedd. The money has meant that we have had to make some small changes to the grant. We've unfortunately had to reduce some of the funding that went into the local health board, but it's fortunate to say that it's actually had no impact actually on the delivery. The local health board appear at the moment to have found the funding to continue the work that they were doing, and we are continuing with the local health board to deliver the health visiting as outlined in the Children and Communities grant. We've also been able to use the grant money to extend the partnership working that we're doing with education. So we're quite pleased to say that in 26-27 we're going to be working closely with the educational psychologists, and we're also funding a dedicated youth worker who's going to work within the pupil referral units, and we're looking very much this next coming year that we're in now to strengthen that joint working with youth services and with education services going forwards. I think I'll stop there and then open it up to any questions. Obviously, you've got the recommendation within the report, and you've got the options there as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. Now, and Hannah for your presentations. Actually, it's very, very exciting. It's a shame you don't know when the next grant is going to come through, so we could get that all arranged, but it is working on the hoof, isn't it, actually? Okay, members, I will open it up to the committee members first. I will start with Councillor David.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm looking, as it was last year, for funding within the Children and Communities Grant for autism, and I think I asked questions last year. Yeah, I think what I'm looking for is that we explicitly include autism and dedicated support for neurodivergent families within the strategic planning for the Welsh Government's Children and Communities Grants. Now, it's a concern to me that families of children with autism in our area continually feel forgotten and overlooked in local funding allocations. The Children and Communities Grant is specifically designed to empower local authorities to provide early intervention, mitigate disadvantage and ensure the right support reaches those who need it most. Yet there's a clear and persistent gap in the provision of direct, reliable and sufficient funding specifically earmarked for autistic children and their families in Conway. Autism is not a secondary concern. It requires continuous specialised support that helps families navigate daily challenges, access inclusive childcare and prevent caregiver burnout. Currently, Conway Council fails to provide a sufficient direct funding tailored to those realities, leaving many families to struggle without adequate local dialogue, respite or guidance. While some third sector organisations and local parent-led groups like Stand, North Wales and Conway Connect do their best to bridge these gaps, the ultimate statutory and financial responsibility lies with the local authority. What I'm urging the council to do is to ring fence or prioritise direct funding for autism within the Children and Communities Grant, and to open a transparent dialogue with autistic individuals, parents and local stakeholders to understand exactly what families need on the ground. So that's what I'm really asking for. So if someone could actually address that, I'd be very grateful.
Thank you, Councillor David. Okay. Hannah, are you going to come in? Oh, it's going to be Kat. Diolch, Kat.
I'll let Hannah come in to explain the range of things that are going on on the ground. But we have a dedicated autism and neurodiversity officer in Conway called Glesney. So we actually do have a programme. And we also get a specific grant from the National Autism Service. We're part of that network. So, and that Glesney's work fits into that national picture. So we do have that resource already, and she supports the stakeholder group that we've got in Conway. It's a partnership post that we have with Denbighshire. So I think we have got that already in Conway as part of the National Autism Service for Wales.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. I'm really looking for more, because I did ask these questions last year. Dialogue with the parents.
They're part of the stakeholder group.
Yeah,
I can let you know who's on the stakeholder group.
Oh, that'd be great. As I said, there wasn't too much of it in the report, and that's
it isn't funded by the it isn't
it's
by the
not
Children
directly
and
funded.
Communities Grant. Is funded by the National Autism Service.
Yeah, and that's really what I'm looking for, Kat. That we actually, some of the funding from the Children and Communities Grant goes towards autistic children in the area. That's what I was asking for.
Yeah, we've already got the grant, the funding, though. Otherwise, we'd be taking grant funding where we've already got grant funding.
I can see that, having gone through the report and just putting in autism as a quick find of word, you won't find it. In many respects, that's reflected the fact that autism is very common within our communities, and the impact of that on those families that we work with on a day-to-day basis is significant. In terms of the open access provision that we have within Conway that's delivered through the family centres, bearing in mind that the family centres are funded through the CCG grant, we have Stand, who are part of that offer for families. The Integrated Autism Service attends. We deliver LCLAM Let's Talk, which is around supporting language acquisition and development for young people, for little people. We work with our colleagues in CAMS around Arts in Mind. We have sensory clubs that are run in around the county. The vast majority of attendees are children who are experiencing life either pre-diagnosis with autism spectrum conditions or have already had diagnosis, so that they have a safe space that they can be free to be children, and where the volume or the behaviours or the tics or the concerns that parents often have about how to interact when their child may be perceived as being different from others is a really safe way to do that. And we have a lot of attendance for those. One of the reasons we have a lot of attendance for them is because it is that safe space that you can go to, and they're delivered across the county. We have sensory groups as well. We do some work with our additional learning needs colleagues around how we deliver sensory work as well for children. We do also offer some targeted work. We've been offering services around how to manage meltdowns for parents, because actually managing your child's distress is really stressful. And we know that an awful lot of our families are multi-generational, neurodiverse as well. So they may have a child whose autism is such that they're very loud, but they as a parent may be somebody who is naturally more inclined to be quieter and really struggles as a result with the volume or the articulation of noise. We work really closely with the Conway, with CDC, so the Child Development Service Centre in Conway. We work closely with our colleagues in under 25 disabilities, and we're really mindful that the disability service is very focused on a wide range of physical and learning disabilities alongside that presentation of autism. A lot of the time we're talking about how we support families really effectively through giving parents the tools and the confidence to be the best parents that they're able to be, dealing with things that are really stressful. If you're a parent and you suddenly have a child whose response to something is huge, and you suddenly have your family menu significantly limited, we have those conversations on a daily basis. So we have disabilities workers within the family centres who are funded through this money. And the vast majority of the families that they work with, although they refer to as disability family workers, the vast majority of the families they're working with are families that are seeking to manage that neurodiversity. And it's not just autism, of course, it is also ADHD. There is elements around dyslexia, dyspraxia, and any other number of neurodiversity. So for us, it's really important that we do this embedded in the way that we're working. So whilst it might not be explicitly pulled out, I'm more than happy for you to join us at one of our family centres, have a conversation with the families about the complexities, with one of our family workers about the complexities of family life that mean that autism is actually, and other neurodiversities are really embedded in the practice we have across all of the different families we work with. Because you're right, it isn't spelled out, but it's not spelled out because actually we're doing so much about it. For us, it's quite a normal part of the way that we deliver, and we hate it when families can't feel that they can access something. So if there's a family that you've got in mind in particular that isn't feeling that they're getting access to support, they're more than welcome to go to the local family centre. You can advocate for them and represent them, and we're more than happy to look at what it is that's missing that we could support them with.
Thank you very much.
I'll just come back briefly and say that, what families do feel is that the bunched in with additional learning needs, they're not some, and that's how I'm saying how families feel, and this is the feedback I've got, rather than something specific. And it's more the third sector that's doing it rather than the council itself. So they're the points.
I would really value details on those families, that we can provide support to them specifically, because I suspect that for some families it's about the language that's been used with them. We absolutely recognise that it isn't simply a homogenous group of people. We do need to provide targeted support, and we do that effectively. So if there's families that we're not doing it well with, then there's an opportunity for us to improve. But we don't currently receive that information back through the surveying that we do, which is why I really would value that. Please, diolch.
Thank you very much, Kat and Hannah, for that reply. Okay, I'm going to call in Councillor Mandy online.
Thank you, Chair. Really appreciate you letting me come in. I just want to start off by saying it's really good to be back as a committee member on the social care team here today. And I want to say thank you for all the work that's gone in producing this report, and the work that the whole team do across Conway County. It really is a quality report. It's clear, comprehensive, and it shows the scale of the work that's happening, as I said, across Conway to support our most vulnerable children, young people and families. Now, for me, achieving full spend and delivering the Flying Start county-wide, whilst maintaining a high level of early impact, the intervention services, it's no small achievement, so it needs to be commended, really. So I just wanted to give me thanks regarding that, because I know a little of the work you do within the county. I've visited our family centres quite a bit, as I've seen firsthand the help and support residents get as well when they need to access those services. And I will say they're second to none. What I would like to ask, if it's okay with yourself, is that we know referrals are rising, and I'd just like to know, what are the current waiting times for the family centre support, and how are we preventing delays for families when they need our help quickly? That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Diolch, Councillor Mandy. Okay, I'll call in Hannah again.
So our family centres operate on a drop-in basis. You are welcome to come at any point of any day. They're open, come by, have a conversation, have a panad. It doesn't have to be for a specific group. You're welcome to phone us, email us, contact us via Facebook. We're not on TikTok. We haven't opted for that route. In terms of delays, it depends very much on individual circumstances. There shouldn't be more than a week, 2 weeks to be able to get the right person in contact with that family. Sometimes it's about making sure we've got the right fit of worker as well, and making sure that we've got a full understanding of your needs as best possible. But we will be in contact with you as soon as possible. If there's any reason that you come across where somebody is not receiving it in that form, please tell me, because we are working on the basis that we should be freely available, that there should be as few barriers as possible for families to be able to access our support, because actually we know that when you've asked for some help, it's because you need some help. It's not because you want to wait until we get round to you.
Am I okay just coming back in 1 second, Chair?
Yes, of course, Councillor Mandy.
Thank you. Yeah, as I said, I really just wanted that to get out there, because, as I said, I have had that experience with the family centres. I've visited them myself as a councillor, but also signposted and been there with residents and the families too. But I just thought it was important to get out there, so anyone listening on town, online, do know how they can actually get that support. So really happy with this report today, and would just like to say thank you again, and I'm happy to go with the recommendations and support of this today. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Mandy, and thank you for recommending this. I'm just going to call in Councillor Bernice, but I do have Councillor Simon and Councillor Cheryl, just to let you know. I know you are online waiting. Councillor Bernice.
Just a quickie, Chair. When we were being given information about leisure activities and some of the older children having lunches, but also being involved to train, do we do anything about getting them involved in planning their meals? How to plan meals? I just think it could be a missed opportunity. And as we have a proposer, can I second that proposal? Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Bernice. Okay, I will call in Nat.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Obviously, through our provision, we operate in outdoor spaces, in parks and football pitches and things like that. So, yes, we would provide provision of food during the holidays for older children. In terms of opportunities for them to participate in further training, through Playful Champions, obviously, initially we'll get them doing play training so they can become agents and advocates of their own community and their own sessions. If they show an interest in other things, we would then kind of either help them access other services, other departments and other opportunities. We could use Conway Employability Hub, or we'd link them in with youth services as well. Obviously, I couldn't tell you everything that youth services did because it's not my department, but I know that they have the healthy eating options and they do lots of work around food planning and things like that with young people. So we would signpost them to other agencies as well. We're not the Have a Go project is working in partnership with those. So we're fully aware that youth service have the offer for kind of 11 to 25, and our offer is 0 to 18. So where there's those gaps, we help each other kind of plug the services. So we're not duplicating services in communities, it's more of a working in collaboration. So if there are communities that we're not able to reach through one service, the other service will jump in when we can. And also being able to be coordinated through kind of Families First and CCG and the family centres, it means if there's emergent needs in communities, we're able to go, oh, right, okay, the play team are available, we'll go there now, because we're the most suitable kind of provision at the moment. And then it might be that, oh, that needs swaps. Obviously around the ages of communities as well. So in particular communities, the general age of those children might increase. So there's been an example recently where we've moved our provision because the children were actually turning 17, 18. So we're not probably the appropriate service now. So it was like a tag in, tag out system with youth. So they've kind of gone back into that community now and we've moved on somewhere else. So we are working collaboratively to try and provide all those opportunities. And I hope that answers your question. Hannah might be able to jump in more.
No, thank you very much. That was very precise. I'm going to call in Councillor Simon Croft.
Yeah, just a couple of questions from back in the actual report. I was just wondering what this new play sufficiency and childcare sufficiency assessment is all about. And the other one, I notice in the providers, BCU are providing Flying Start services. I wonder what they are doing for us.
Diolch, Councillor Simon. Who am I going to call in? Nat?
If I jump in on the first point around the play sufficiency, so the play sufficiency is a legal duty that's been bound on us by Welsh Government through legislation and the Families Measure. So as a local authority, we're bound to review and every 3 years review what opportunities there are, what children tell us, have a look at what we're doing, and kind of provide an overhauling assessment of that. And then each year we're to provide an action plan and a review of the action plan based on the assessment. So that's a legal duty that I take responsibility for. The childcare sufficiency assessment is separate, and I know that Alwen, who's already been mentioned, kind of takes responsibility for that. So that's separate work, and the provision that we deliver through the grant is part of a stream of work that goes towards play sufficiency in Conway. It's not to be kind of dismissed that the amount of work through provision that is done for play sufficiency is massive. But play sufficiency is really about getting everybody around the table talking about strategically how can we plan for play.
Yeah, and like Nat said, the childcare sufficiency is very similar. That's headed up by Education Services, but it's doing what it says. It's looking at the sufficiency of childcare within the county. With regards to the local health board, they deliver for us the health visiting side of the Flying Start programme. So every child in the county is eligible for the universal health visiting, but within certain postcodes. And unfortunately, it is certain postcodes. That particular aspect of the programme hasn't developed the same as the funded childcare aspect. So there are certain postcodes within the county where children are eligible for additional health visiting support, and that additional support is funded through the Flying Start programme. And it also includes some nursery nurses, some perinatal mental health support, and a few other services like that. But it is specifically within certain postcodes. We have pushed this back to Welsh Government, asking if there is any intention to expand that, being county-wide, the same as the funded childcare. But at the moment that there isn't, it stayed within those traditional Flying Start areas.
Yeah, interesting. I was wondering, talking about place sufficiency, basically seeing how well it's working, do you actually do any user surveys from the users to see what they think of it?
Yes, so every 3 years we do a big survey called My Big Play Survey, and we bring this through economy and culture scrutiny, so it does go through scrutiny and is approved that way. So we talk to children, we do a lot of surveys through schools, and then we work through focus groups as well. So as I kind of mentioned, the Have a Go provision came through the focus groups that we were doing in place efficiency. And this isn't something we just get it off the shelf every 3 years. This is something we're actively doing every day to understand the needs of children. We also understand the limitations around consultation with children. So through provision, when we've got play workers out in communities doing observations, having a look at play audits, having a look at where do children move around, we've got a kind of a good idea of how that works. And then we're working with lots of the other partners, strategic partners as well, to look at including those in kind of the LDPs for communities, mapping and audits and kind of developments as well. So where we're needed and when there's developments, we consult on them, we try and get out to children, seek their views, and kind of advocate for them in that way as well.
Thank you very much, Nat. Okay, I'm going to call in Councillor Sherrill.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for that. First of all, huge thanks to Mark and Nat and Hannah for this excellent report. Very, very comprehensive. I've just got a couple of comments. The St David's Day Fund, that's absolutely vital for our children looked after. And it's such a shame that there's less this year, and I would urge that we lobby really hard to get this increased and to look to increasing that in the coming year if we possibly can, if there's any slippage, anything like that. Those of us who've put our own children through university know just how expensive it is, and I know several young people that have been in the care of Conway and they've put themselves through uni and become social workers, which is an absolute testament to how they were supported during their time with us. And the Bank of Mum and Dad is there to support our own children, and I think it's vital that we increase this fund to support the children that haven't got the Bank of Mum and Dad or the Bank of Nana and Grandad. So that was the first one. And secondly, I really welcome the health worker for the Youth Justice Service, because that's going to really assist with the substance misuse issues that are very prevalent, and of course they go hand in hand with the youth offending. So that's a welcome addition to the teams, and to say thank you for this report. I see it's already been seconded. I was going to second, but thanks everyone. Diolch.
Diolch, Councillor Sherrill. I'll just call in Mark.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. With the St David's Day Fund, they do collate all their costs and bring them to us, and I think every year they do come with more than we've actually allocated to them, and we've always so far managed to meet it through slippage throughout the year. There's always a small amount of slippage through people leaving and the recruitment drag and that sort of thing, and so far we've always managed to meet that, and it'll be our intention to do the same this year. So if we are looking like the I think we've allocated in there 33,292. If that's looking like it isn't enough, then they are near the top of the list to receive any slippage that we do have.
Oh, thanks for that, Mark, because I know it's a conversation having with Councillor Kay at the moment, and I know she feels the same. So thank you very much for that.
Dear Councillor Sherrill, I'm going to bring in Councillor Mike. Councillor Mike, can you just check to make sure your mic's on, please? No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just clear that. Really, I'd just like to echo, and I do apologise, I have to leave as soon as, that's why I've just put my hand up. I have to echo what I've heard in the chamber and online. Excellent report. I think it's fair to say that all the presenters have a real clear grip and understanding of the subject matter at hand. And I have to say as well, from what I've heard, the enthusiasm is by the bucket loads. So, it's really positive, and I thank the team for what they're doing. And I just have to apologise that I have to go after that, but I could not leave this meeting without saying thank you to the team. Great effort, great report, and as you say, over 4,000 participants is just amazing, isn't it? So, diolch cadeirydd.
Diolch, Councillor Mike. Are there any more questions in the room or online? Okay, before we go to the recommendation, can I also give my thanks for an excellent presentation? I know how passionate you all are, and it really shows. It really does. And I know that if hopefully we'll get more money, it will be spent in a way that will help our residents to the best of your abilities, and I really appreciate that. Okay, the recommendation can be found on page 39, and it's item 2. In line with the agreed governance arrangements for the CCG grant allocated to CCBC, that the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee acknowledge the delivery of the grant programme in 2025 to 2026 and the outcomes achieved, that members support the proposed programme for 2026 to 2027. We have a proposer, who's Councillor Mandy, seconder, Councillor Bernice. Would it be possible now to open the electronic voting system, please? Members, we are voting electronically, so that will come up. Has everybody had an opportunity to vote? Okay, if we can now close the electronic voting system, please. Excellent. We've had 10 who voted for, none against and no abstentions. That has been carried. Before we close the meeting, can I just thank everybody for attending today, members for your participation, portfolio holders, officers, Jane and Rebecca, and everybody, of course, in the booth doing the electronic system and the translation. Hopefully you will all have a really good afternoon, and the